Trade Center took 10 years to build, a decade, 1966 to 1976. I can no longer tell you of the two towers, the one on the left, the one with the big antenna on top, the Uptown Tower, or Tower number 1 of the World Trade Center, when it was completed in 1973 at 110 stories, or 1,362 feet above the street level, it then became the tallest building in the world, displacing the Empire State Building. You can still see back up the aisle. Unfortunately, I can no longer tell you the beautiful tower on the right, Tower number 2 of the World Trade Center. If you happen to be up on the roof, Tower number 2, 1,368 feet above the street level, without the pleasure of being on the world's highest open-air observation deck, where you can see on a clear day, unlike today, for 55 miles in any given direction, including the curvature of the Earth. I can no longer tell you that it was silence. Once again, there is no one on this vessel that does not know what happened. There are almost 6,000 human beings lost their lives here. Well, you see that? It's not fog, it's smoke. A lot of the debris is still smoldering. Later, the fact that the intensity of the fire was so great on the debris. By the way, these two structures took 200,000, 1/5 of a million tons of structural steel to build.
And you know, it wasn't just those Twin Towers. About 7 buildings were completely destroyed, demolished here at Lower Manhattan. And then you look ahead on the left there, the next street that opens up, that's where the South Tower stood. And you also see smoke rising straight over and you look. You know, there's still fires smoldering. There's something like 6 floors below ground level of the magnificent Twin Towers. And try to imagine what they look like if you've never seen them. You see that big glass building with the dome on top and the green dome? 2 buildings about twice the height of that, rising into the sky here.
No one on this vessel that does not know what it took to take it down this time. You take a look on our left port side above that green roof on one of the oldest standing piers coming out of Pier A, the very same pier that Charles Lindbergh came back from Europe in 1927 after his transatlantic flight stolen an aircraft. Just beyond it you will see what is now known as ground zero. A term, unfortunately, that I've been living with since I've been in grammar school. Never ever thought I would really see ground zero. And oddly enough, as you look up at that big expanse of space, you're looking right past where this city was born. The beginning and the most current. Underneath these trees, this is the Battery and Battery Park. When I say battery, I do not mean lighting on your flashlight. I mean here as would be a large piece of artillery, a battery or gun. The white man's cleaner enough was launched in Southampton, England in 1885. It's the Maker tree, it's 116 years old. The one next to it, the relatively new one, the King, launched in Hamburg, Germany, 1911. And Pier 17, inside, restaurants,
everybody keep on moving to the fast track.
Who's standing in that space right there.
Okay, right now we're south of where the towers used to be, looking to exactly where they used to be, and you can see the construction cranes. And this is about as far as you can go.
Come here, come here. No, see? Look it.
And what you're looking at here on September 16, 2001, 5 days after this horrific bombing. Here's the Cortlandt Street Station number 19 lines, buried under the rubble.
knock these buildings down, we'll hear all of us soon.
You have two 110-story office buildings. You don't find a desk. You don't find a chair. You don't find a telephone, a computer. The biggest piece of a telephone I found was half of the keypad, and it was about this big. The building collapsed to dust. How are we supposed to find anybody in this, that there's nothing left of the building?
conquest level is where we were checking earlier with the dogs and the cameras and the voice we found. We're going to go down. We've got an easy way to get down the escalators to the next level. We're going to go down there and try to see if I can access this mechanical room we're trying to get to.
That's a huge crazy. Seven.
Right now? I think it's more of a supplemental force. It's not like, you know, that's our mission. It's not like we're in charge of all that. I don't think that's his intention. I've never really heard of it before. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's just one of those things we're cast out for.
Because you're really, I mean, I've assumed the intent is, your job is to
Debris from the tall towers crashed through the roof of this building, World Trade Center Building 6, and through the basements 6 stories underground.
Large chunks of that heavy facade broke off, and presumably from floor, you know, from the upper floors, 90 or higher, and just crashed through the center of this building, crashing through the 9 floors of this building. And you'll see when we go underground, crashing through many of the concrete slabs that create the parking structure.
Now, that's what we're talking about, right?
You guys want to what's
urban search and rescue teams, FEMA, this team from Sacramento.
Like I said, go all in.
I have to figure it out. I don't know.
There's got to be people down there still alive. There has to be.
Listen, we try to keep hope. And we look everywhere. We even crawled down into the stores and the subway tunnels underneath the site. But as days turned into weeks, you began to accept. There just wasn't anybody to find.
As you look to your left, look through this opening here, Ray, where the danger sign is, and kind of look your head in there. Do you see anything?
I'm picking up on one of our alternate nets. Who's this?
Billy Minetti from All Liberty Plaza, copy. What unit back me transportation? Detail supervisor, Central,
You're not gonna get us in trouble, right?
What?
You're not. Any crews working back in here at all?
And this is a view of the Cortlandt Street station on the number 1 and 9 lines. The station was completely evacuated after the World Trade Center building came down. Token Kirk's booth here.
How's it going? Good. Yourself? Very good. That's all right. I have mine on too.
College down there, huh?
Yeah, it's all flooded.
So go down the back, all the way down?
Yeah, I went down there. I went to there was a ladder there.
Yeah.
Down to the track area.
One and none.
They're gonna fix that.
You got a smoke right up there?
No, I don't smoke. I don't either, partner.
Huh?
I don't smoke either. I'd give you one if I had one.
one of the main entrances to get into the parking levels downstairs.
Our trip with Port Authority Police took us down the ramp that once ran beneath Building 7. We descended into what was the World Trade Center's multi-level parking garage.
Port Authority police employees park their vehicles here. That's evidently a collapse zone. We don't want to get too close to that.
Where the force of the collapse of Tower 2 turned cars on end and left them charred and charcoal gray here.
Like that one there is from the floor above, and that's the floor right there.
But virtually untouched here. The trunks and doors of these law enforcement vehicles open to show they've been searched and emptied of police radios and gear.
This video, shot by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, gives some idea of the kind of damage the City Transit Authority will have to clean up and then repair. You can see a walkway and an escalator destroyed when part of the Cortlandt Street N&R station caved in with the force of the collapse. A Transit Authority engineer tells FEMA giant pieces of steel near the top of one of the towers actually fell right through street level to the subway tracks below.
Yeah, we're good.
Mike. Okay, open mic. Check your mic.
Well, I'm gonna run a guy to the street. One of you guys wanna run up and see how far we are from the road? Should be right there.
Should be.
Huh?
Should be right here.
Gary, can you run up there, just give it a look, see, and
The end and the R.
that's, we're escorting him.
So most people are out of here. Most people are probably out.
I would say
Yes,
most
you're
people
in
are
this
out
car.
of here.
I'm down here with Boyd. Can you still
You're
read
gonna
me?
you're gonna see the other subway. It's impressive. The tracks are full of water. Huge hazard. You walk along and just fall in. Subway, cars are crushed. It's on the other side of the railroad pile. It's very impressive. Incredible. Incredible. I almost couldn't sleep last night. It was that exciting.
For what?
The other pile.
Which other one?
The subway system, the other one.
Oh, yeah, that was.
It was awesome.
They already bunkered that off, though. They've already sealed that.
All of them are close.
They sealed, but no, they sealed it.
Sealed with like bricks?
They pumped grout in there and sealed up the ends of that tunnel.
Wow. Maybe
Yeah.
it's water.
No, that's what it, yeah, it's yeah. They went out to the regular road.
Yes, I have.
Our whole objective is to look at where we can get a ramp down into here and start getting it through. The crane is
I don't know where they went, either this way or this way.
They have one of your team guys let you know that.
Yeah, they do, but
I understand. They didn't buy tokens, they're not gonna get back in there.
that's all I'm curious. Yeah, let's try to get them back, or at least where we can all be.
Rich. Yeah. Where are you guys at?
I'd like to go park out right now if I could.
They're looking for you guys for right here.
What's
Cortlandt Street Station. They're trying to get on basement 1, and they want to survey basement 2. Can't go back out. How we got in for accountability? There's all that.
Our tour in the darkness then took us to a once bustling commuter zone beneath the Trade Center. Time literally stands still here, 10:05, when power was lost, the precise time when Tower 2 collapsed into a cloud of dust and debris.
If you look inside the commuter bar here, you'll see bottles.
Yet here in the concourse, an amazing scene of preservation. This commuter bar withstood much of the thundering devastation taking place above.
The glasses are still in
Glasses are still in the rack, and there are still glasses on the bar and a bottle of beer there.
Is that the 11th? The Daily News blares that Tuesday's pre-attack headline.
There's another newsstand and a photo place on the other side of this collapse zone, and there was another bank of turnstiles also.
There's still candy and stuff for sale that would have
I guess so, sure.
Down on the path tracks, this eerie sight, a 7-car path train with 3 of the cars crushed, the rest largely intact.
Now, we don't know at what point this came into the station, do we?
No, I know that everybody got evacuated from this path station and did get out.
Still lower to platform 5. We're now 6 stories below ground.
What you're looking at across the way is the tower wall, completely filled with debris from the upper level floors. The actual tower columns are acting as almost shoring, holding back that wall of debris. It's probably the only thing keeping it off the path tracks.
In some places, those tracks now covered in thick brown muck, a mix of dust, water, and debris. And within the collapsed debris, graphic evidence of just how powerfully the Twin Towers came crashing down.
So right there you got about 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 floors, which were 14 foot apart, over 70 feet of floor, compacted down to about 3 feet.
This was filled with thousands of people a day, commuters, shoppers, people going to work. It doesn't look anything like this.
Crushed subway cars, a restaurant, an escalator that carried thousands of people every day.
Here we are down inside the subway station. As you can tell here, the subway tube itself is smashed and collapsed from this point on. And we are, and here's the subway, and here's part of the ceiling falling down all around me here. There's a huge abyss, a huge pit that goes on from the building collapse. And that whole area is entirely unstable, okay? So when we go through that, we need to do it very quickly. This is in the Commuters Cafe, inside and underneath the World Trade Center, and this is the bar.
Be really careful here. A lot of these blocks are loose.
Down below, there are cracks and fissures in the staircases and walls.
Pretty regularly, and everybody.
Here's a hell of a crack in this.
Yeah.
And there was worse to come. It is still very dangerous down here, a war zone. The deeper we descended, the darker and drearier and dustier it became.
You got to get all those concrete blocks above your head, so please just kind of keep an eye, try to stay up underneath them. They're only being held down by wires.
You could smell smoke, and when the wind shifts in certain pockets, there is the uniquely unmistakable smell of death. There was devastation everywhere. So much damage to the superstructure that, quite frankly, we were surprised to see anything still standing.
And these are the huge columns, the huge exterior columns that support the exterior of the building. And you can see the force of the fire and the explosion has basically sheared off. And so that when you look at it from the outside, you see that northern facade is leaning against this building. And that's why it's leaning, because these have sheared off.
When you see a building standing intact, Ken, you don't think it's possible this kind of thing can happen.
No, we're seeing very unusual circumstances throughout this building.
We kept descending. This is level B3, 3 floors beneath ground zero. We walked into what used to be a garage for the federal government employees who worked in the building. The daylight you see filters in from that giant crater at the bottom of what Holden calls the atrium.
I call it the atrium. Obviously, it was not an atrium, and you can see cars hanging off here, cars down here.
Good God, this is an automobile hanging like this.
With its tires burnt off, obviously the rubber has been burnt off. The fire here was so hot, obviously these cars are all burnt out, but you'll be able to see over, I believe it's over here, see the aluminum hubcap is just melted right off. That's a puddle of aluminum from the fire.
Oh, this is what's left of the hubcap?
Yep. There's a car right down there. Careful. There's a muffler, and there's a car down there.
This is really eerie because you realize it's not only a graveyard for automobiles, it's a graveyard for some people.
Tens of thousands of people used to come to these underground tunnels every day, not just to work in the towers and park their cars, but also to visit a vast underground shopping mall.
Thousands of people came here to shop every day.
Sure.
There was a city underneath the city.
A very, very vibrant place. Very vibrant place.
Shops were down here. In addition to the
restaurants, 15 to 25,000 people per building between people who actually work there. You have the, the 1 and the 9 train going through the middle of the complex. You've got the PATH trains. I mean, this was a mini city.
Below ground.
All below ground.
We still had 3 stories to go to get down to the rail tunnels. It was pitch black, disorienting, and it was slippery. The floor was slick with oil and gas from the abandoned cars, and we were warned the floor could collapse at any minute.
You see these cracks right here?
Yep.
Right along here, this is a cracked slab. You can see it goes all the way.
Yeah.
In a normal world, this is not a place I would recommend taking anyone to walk.
Well, that's the reason we want to keep moving here,
exactly.
because this is unstable.
The PATH commuter rail line is 6 stories below ground zero. Miraculously, perhaps, no one died in this station the day the towers came down.
They use standard operating procedure for the Port Authority and the TA is when there's a fire to evacuate. So all these, both the PATH trains and the subways were evacuated when the buildings were on fire. So when they did collapse, no one was injured. I mean, we lost a lot of people, but we saved a lot more than we lost.
35,000 commuters used to arrive in this station from New Jersey every day. But everything stopped just 5 minutes after Tower 1 tumbled down 6 stories overhead.
Of all the things we've seen some incredible things today. Seeing this empty train.
It's pretty eerie. It's pretty eerie. And the sign that says next stop home, I mean, that's really kind of poignant.
Fortunately, there was nobody in the train.
Absolutely.
And this got evacuated.
This was all evacuated. No one was hurt down here.
But it may take 2 years before the trains will start rolling here again, and even longer before a nearby subway line will be fixed. There are hundreds of miles of wires, pipes, and cables to be replaced. By the end of next year, Commissioner Holden hopes to have his area above and below ground zero cleared up. Price tag, $2.5 billion.
Ken, estimated, how much debris have you already removed?
We've probably removed somewhere in the area of 400,000 tons. The initial estimates that we worked out with FEMA, the Federal Emergency Agency, were somewhere in the area, and with the Port Authority, we're somewhere in the area of 1.2 million tons, so we're probably about 1/3 of the way through.
That's 1.2 million tons.
Of steel and debris.
Most of that from the surface?
Almost all of that from the surface. We're just beginning to get below grade.
And to those who say, I appreciate their spirit, but they must be kidding themselves. It just can't be done. You say what?
We'll get it done. We took one on the chin, knocked us on our butt, but like all New Yorkers, we'll pick ourselves up, we'll dust our clothes off, and we'll get back to doing what we do best.
But removing the debris that is underground is a logistical dilemma, an engineering nightmare. When the World Trade Center complex was built 30 years ago, an enormous retaining wall, called a slurry wall, was constructed below ground. The wall is 3 feet wide and 60 to 70 feet deep. It was designed to prevent water from the Hudson River, just blocks away, from flooding the 6-story basements.
Here is your slurry wall. This is probably an old tieback.
The other side of this is the Hudson River?
Well, the other side of this is mud, but the water table here is extremely high because we're so close to the river that special construction techniques were needed.
The massive underground containing structure is nicknamed the bathtub.
That's the difference. The bathtub in your house is designed to keep the water in.
This keeps it out so that they could build the parking structures underground here.
For 30 years now, the wall has been supported by the floors in the basement levels, floors that have now buckled. Because of all the damage, Ken Holden's engineers will have to shore up the wall with more than 1,000 cables to prevent it from collapsing.
You know, we're drilling through the 3-foot wall, drill 85 feet or so down to bedrock, then we drill 35 feet into bedrock, then we take basically the same kind of cables that they use on bridges, grout it up, basically concrete it up, wait 3 days for it to cure, and then they tension those cables, and that sustained the wall.
Something fell?
Something fell. Once the permanent...
Are we all right here?
We're fine.
Okay.
Commissioner Holden knows he can never let his guard down here, and he has concerns about the structural integrity of the wall when he starts demolition nearby.
As we talk right now, parts of the slurry wall have been damaged a little. Is there some water seeping through, or not much?
There is no more water seeping through the slurry wall now than there is in normal circumstances.
But it's a constant battle to keep it dry down here, to keep the floods out. Even when the wall is intact, there are several inches of water in these tunnels.
But this water is not seeping in from the river. This comes from fireman's water.
Exactly.
Saving the wall is critical. If the tunnels flood, the water could pour into train and subway lines and destabilize nearby buildings.
I don't know about you, but is the hair on the back of your neck beginning to raise a little bit?
I've been down there too many times. My hairs are kind of worn away.
Well, maybe you forgive some of the rest of us.
Ken Holden is under enormous pressure to get the job done, below ground and above.
Just say your name and spell your last name.
Spell my last name, Jorge Duquesne. D as in David, U-Q-U-E-S-N-E.
And what's your position with the task force?
I am the structural specialist and the hazmat officer for the task force.
As a structural specialist, what are your thoughts about this building? Can you believe something like this happened?
You know, I've been asked that quite a few times, and I still don't have the words to describe it. It's unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable doesn't quite cut it.
What did you think would happen?
Amazing sight. What would I would have thought you would have some damage to the top of the structure, maybe the top shearing off and doing collateral damage on the bottom.
Yeah.
Maybe some damage to the buildings on the side from splattering and so forth. But I never imagined it was going to bring down so many buildings, nor that it was going to damage so much the buildings surrounding it. It's just amazing. Well, I never thought the bottom of it would fall. Again, I just thought that it was weakened on one side and it would shear it off and the top will slide down. But I guess a lot of people thought that way too.